What comes up for me most is just deep appreciation for you, right? Looking back at our time together, as long as I've known you, I was trying to think this morning, like, how long has it been? And
Yeah.
it's easily 10, 12 years. So over a decade. And yeah, the thing that comes up for me is like how different and similar you are from 12 years ago, right? There's just like you mentioned the gray hair, maybe the longer hair, but just like how you've come into your own, into your heart, into your center. And it's really spectacular to see and be a part of. And I love you so much and I appreciate you so much. And I'm super, super thankful for you. So starting with gratitude, it's always a good
Oh
place to
my,
start.
thank you, Mark. I love you too. It's been a journey, right? Like I think we originally connected through Colorado Counseling Association,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
were on the governing board, and then you were
Hmm.
coming into your like president-elect
Hmm.
role, and then
Hmm.
president, and then I think I came in one or two after you. I don't remember the exact
Yeah.
sequence, but we
Yeah.
were in we were in there for about 6 years, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah. And how different,
Mm.
like I look at like how kind of clean cut and buttoned up we both were at that point, right? And it was just like very kind of structured and this is the way things are done. And I appreciate that, and I think it was a great clinical experience, right? Like being president and then you being president, like we had some really good and interesting experiences during that time. And I think part of what called me to CCA, and maybe you too, was that sense of community, like connection.
Mhm.
Like I wanted to be a part of something. And it was a great opportunity, I think, to be a big part of something, but it wasn't as heart centered as our connections now. So I think the
Right.
big transition for me was like, yeah, both of us maybe wanted this sense of community and connection, but it was on such a big scale and a very different clinical scale than what we're doing now. But we're called to community, called to connection, called to like assisting and being a part of healing and helping and being a part of people living their best lives.
Hmm.
And so it's funny how like this path has taken us in very interesting directions in the psychedelic world. um when we first met, it was oh god, 12 years ago or so, and then COVID happened and I was like
Yeah.
busy with my PhD working on that and like
Hmm.
super buried in coursework and working on my dissertation. And I feel like we kind of disconnected at that point, like we weren't in
Yeah.
contact very frequently. And yeah, life just happened, and then I started getting curious about the psychedelic realm and I saw your name pop up and I was like, wait a second, what is this guy doing in this world? What? And I knew then, like, because you're somebody that I've always known, I've always trusted. As long as I've known you, I've respected you, I've trusted you. I feel like you're somebody with a good head on your shoulders. And so when I saw your name on that, I was like, wait a second. Like, if he's doing it, then there must be something to this. And so that's what opened the door for me. Like, I reached back out to you and, like, wait a second, Jamie, you're doing this? What are you doing? And it's just like opened up a whole floodgate for me in terms of things that I had never experienced, healing opportunities like I'd never felt before, and being a part of something that I'm super excited to be a part of. And you're a big part of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, that was quite the reconnection, right? We had been together in CCA, then drifted off,
Mm-hmm.
and in the meantime, while you were doing your PhD, right, you were working. Yeah, I was working in the Medicaid system and grievance and appeals, managing like the Medicaid contract and doing doing the sitting in those meetings, wondering if I should cut my hair because I felt like I did not fit into the crew. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I did that a couple times where you're in these workplaces and you like belong, don't belong, right? There's something
Mm-hmm.
about it that doesn't feel right. And so I remember like making these corrections right? Of like, oh, I'll get some new clothes, I'll cut my hair, I'll do these things just to like, it was almost like attempting to re-energize my engagement with it. Well, if I
Mhm.
go all in, will I succeed at this, right? And luckily, unluckily, COVID happened and I got laid off. And then when I got laid off, I went back into practice full time, and and then from there, I tried to get a job in healthcare administration again, and that was just not happening. Like magically, even with great connections into great companies, there was a point where I would hit where the feedback I was getting was like, this isn't your path, right? And so I
Yeah.
accepted that and went to practice full time. And then I found this job for listing for ketamine therapy.
Mhm.
And I, and at the time, I was like, I'm not really sure exactly that I know enough about ketamine to engage in this interview. But I was like, let's talking about psychedelics. I've done quite a bit of that. Maybe I can figure out what they really like, what the conversation is here. So I had the interviews. I just talked about my healing process and trauma and what that process looks like from my own personal experience, and that ended up being good enough to start working as a ketamine therapist. And I did that in Boulder. And I think that was maybe shortly after that is when we reconnected, and yeah, and that just opened up a whole new thing, right? I ended up working with a bunch of students in a group format and facilitated many ketamine retreats for that organization, and running groups online with students, like quite a bit. And then I had the opportunity to then go up to Oregon, and we got to work with psilocybin, and we got to open a healing center, and we got to see all the beauty and all the challenges with running a place like that with so many staff members and so many clients coming through. Like it was quite the roller coaster. I think during that time, we were still engaged, and we had reconnected. And at some point in there, we had decided, like, hey, Marc, are you interested in coming up to this men's retreat that running, facilitating, participating in? And it was something that had grown out of my time at Regis. And so when I was a student at Regis, being one of the few men in school, some of the guys were like, hey, we should get together and we should just support each other in this process. And
Yeah.
so, did you have that in your PhD program? Did you feel like represented in the program, or did you feel like, oof, what's going on here?
No way. No way. Had no sense of belonging at all. None. 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 Nope. And I think over my lifetime, like that's sort of what I've been searching for, right? Like I was in this fraternity in college, and during COVID, I had joined this group called the Bearded Villains, and my beard was much longer. But like I was like connection, community. I'm like trying to find this brotherhood. And I remember like after we had originally kind of reconnected, you had mentioned this group that you were a part of. And I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds like a great group of guys. And when I got the invitation to join, it just completely changed my world, right? It was like that realization, oh, I'm home. This is what I've been looking for. And it was because of you, right? Like my whole life, I had never engaged in psychedelics, right? Like I had
Right.
lived my life like pretty straight laced, and just had never had the experiences. And so even like my first opportunity to do ketamine was like super scary for me, right? And I remember
I
you like
remember.
holding my hand through this process of like, can I do it? Can I actually do this type of medicine? Um, and so you were there, right? Like you were there just holding my hand through this whole process, through the psychedelic work, into this men's work, into the men's group. And yeah, providing that sense of, I think, stability for me, safety, trust, respect, honor, just like all of these words that I'm trying to come up with that sort of describe you and how you've held my hand through this process. I trust you with my life, 100%. Right, like I know that I can always rely on you, and that's the one thing that's constant. Like I was looking back at our time together and just thinking, yeah, like deep respect and deep trust, a sense of safety, Just like that has been present throughout this entire process. The thing that I noticed that changes for you is maybe that comfort in your skin. Like I see how, maybe you were trying to fit into that corporate world and be a success there versus like just finding belonging in your own skin and
Mm.
then helping other people feel like they belong as well. And for me, that's just been magic. Like you've helped me come to a place of belonging to myself, belonging in my skin, belonging in the men's group,
Yeah.
belonging in a part of something that's like so much bigger than me. It's beautiful and it's an honor to be a part of.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, it's been a real privilege, and I love that we reconnected and we got to go down this path together, right? To like
Mhm.
support each other. You've been there for me. I lean on you a lot. You know, you're the one
Mhm.
person pretty consistently that I reach out to first.
I
Appreciate.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. How would you say how would you say all of the experiences like that coming into community that you know, you were describing me and that being more comfortable, right, in my skin, right? Like just expanding into who I am instead of trying to fit elsewhere. And over this last year or two, there's been a big shift for you that I've noticed in that aspect of you kind of coming alive and coming center. And
Mhm.
how would you say that's shown up in your work with your
Mhm.
clients?
I'm coming back to is that sense of just comfort in myself versus trying to be something or do something, right? It's just like trusting the presence in my body, trusting myself enough to
Mhm.
be fully, completely present to the clients in front of me. And it's a wonder. Like it's such a wonderful experience. I've graduated my master's in counseling psychology in 2001. So I've been
Okay.
practicing for 25 plus years now. The level of depth that I go to now with my clients is deeper, stronger, more connected in ways that I've never felt connected. And
Mm.
there's and most of my clients are men, so most of my work is working with like military veterans, corporate CEOs, like captains of industries, guys who are not like exactly in tune with their emotion. And so part of what's happened for me is like as I've become more comfortable in my skin and more comfortable around deep emotions and darker emotions, it's showing up with my clients in ways that
Mm.
is super surprising and wonderful. Holding space, like we use that term a lot, but like holding space for everything, all emotions being welcome. And I think I
Yeah.
used to be maybe more afraid of going into the darker spaces with clients. And now it's like, I enjoy it. Like, let's go in there.
Yeah.
Let's get in there and root around and see what's up. So I think, your guidance in that direction for me has just I changed the way I view my work. There was a point where I was pretty burnt out and looking at like I need to do something else, like plumbing. And yeah, now I'm just like it's such an honor to sit with people and be with them. And I also feel like I don't have to have all the answers anymore. Like I felt like I needed to know exactly what to do and how to do it and what to say. But there's so much more comfort in myself and not needing to know everything and just being present to what's in the room.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. There's a different flow to the work when you're coming from that space, right? Like your energetic presence of comfort, right?
Mhm.
That you were describing, like that comfort that you feel with all the emotions and all. Like there's the space is vast, right? It's contained,
Mhm.
but it's bigger. Where the container maybe was a little more had more boundaries on it before. Now it's
Mhm.
grown, and I think that's what when people step into your space, it's that, oh, right, that draws people in a certain way because they feel that comfort and they feel that safety. And they're like, oh, this is beyond the normal for Mark right here. Like, right. And so
Mhm.
I could just be, I could venture, I could step into a space that's foreign for me, but that's comfortable for you and that you've created that comfort for me to step into. And so
Mhm.
that allows
Mhm.
me to come into a session or an experience with you and almost like try something on that's not normally me. And when I get to try that on, right? And so I
Yeah.
get to practice in that relationship with you. And then I get to step back and put it back together in the way that it needs to go back into the world. But
Hmm.
now I have that imprint, right? I have that experience of what a real intimate conversation feels like. And the more we're able to practice that, the more we're able to then take that into the rest of our lives. I think that's the process I've seen, like from the first ketamine experience to all the work that you've done and explored on your own and in our groups together. And that's what's happening, right? That's
Hmm.
what you've cultivated and created. That's what you've brought into the world now. And so now you represent that for others that come to you. They feel that, right? They feel that. As I'm sure your clients are feeling a difference for sure.
Yeah. And you know what else I think at the foundation is safety. Like one thing I've always felt safe with you. I've felt like no judgment, just openness, curiosity, and safety. And so none of this would happen if I didn't feel safe. And you've brought that. You've brought that sense of safety to me. And what's happened is I've created safety in my body that
Yeah.
and now allows that to show up in the clinical room in my therapy room with clients, right? They feel safe to start to explore all these things that they've never explored before. Without that sense of safety, it wouldn't be happening. And so
Right.
I give you so much credit. Like, again, it was like just seeing your name on a website, like, wait, you're in the psychedelic world? And so that opened the door for safety for me. Like, okay, if you're doing it, then I can trust that. I feel safer on that. And so
Mm-hmm.
in that safety, I was able to just like develop a sense of safety in my body with all my emotions, with all my thoughts, with all my body sensations, like creating this container of safety that then allows that to be present in the room.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I hear that, and the word safety you were saying, talking about creating safety, and then it made me think of like all the education and programming that we get right in our undergrad, our master's, or your PhD program, and I'm thinking about all the other clinicians and providers that we get this education. Right. And intellectually, we know this is how I work with the client. This is how I create safety for the client. Right. Intellectually, I can create safety,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a difference between that known intellectual, like this is what safety is because maybe this is all I've ever felt, but then to dive into that deeper, that shadow work of that old lineage or our family origin or what's happening in the world has compounded within our systems. And I think it's like when you feel something for the first time, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you could feel joy like that, or peace like that, or safety like that. And I think that part of the work, you can utilize psychedelics for that. You can utilize, community as medicine as well, right? You don't need necessarily that to engage with psychedelics all the time. They're incredibly powerful and can accelerate and uncover things for
Mm-hmm.
us. And then we have to integrate those things into our life. And I think the type of safety that you're talking about, or the way I feel it and perceive it, is this like somatic, this like body, nervous system reset that is just vibrating at a different place, right? Right. So I think there's a difference. Sometimes we're doing our work, we're working with clients, everything is good, everything's contained, but we may be carrying an undercurrent of something that is still energetically communicating something that has a barrier, has a boundary to it, right? That we're communicating safety belongs in this space right here, and that's the space we have to stay in. Where
Mm-hmm.
others have watched your process. So you went from like something that looks like that, right, to then saying, okay, now my entire system feels safe, not just what I know up here. And so it's like your container has expanded, and that energetic presence is radiating now. And then that's what that feeling is, right? Like in that presence of others that make you feel. At least that's the way I think about it. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's super important, right? The idea of being with others and in some way like regulating our nervous systems together, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that you don't get this from AI, right? Like if you're typing something into a computer, you're not getting that human connection, that nervous system regulation that we get. And I think, for 20 years I was just like taking on all this stuff with my clients, and my nervous system was not regulated. right? And so part of what's happened for me in the psychedelic work is like, hang on, look at everything that you're taking on from your clients. You got to regulate this, make sure that your nervous system is okay if you're going to expect theirs to be okay. And so it's been this wonderful and difficult process of like making sure that this is regulated so I can be present for them.
That's the work right there. That's how
Mm-hmm.
we keep ourselves resourced. And I think that's how we make any client type relational work sustainable, right? Like
Yeah.
we have to keep our systems cleaned and resourced. And I think that was huge for me in the group. You know, when I was leaning
Yeah.
on the group, I lean on you, like I mentioned. But to be able to go into that group and just to like unload all that stuff and to have it be held, right, to held by a room full of men. Right now it's not just me carrying my story, my burdens. I get to put them out into the room, and oh, what a surprise, there's a couple people in here that have the similar story than I do, right? And now all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, I'm not alone in this, you
Yeah.
know, of chaos or whatever it may be.
I
Yeah.
know. It's always funny to me, like the number of people, men especially, I think that like hesitate to step into doing group work to like, no, 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 I'm not gonna like reveal this stuff to other guys. But when it happens, it's so amazing, right? Like this shame and these burdens that we've been carrying forever. And then well, you verbalize it, and then there's one, two, three, four other people that are like, "Yep, me too. Not the only one," right? And how that just changes everything. Like talking about the nervous system, right? Like you carry this tension of shame, and then I can open up. I feel safe enough in a group to disclose something that I've been carrying. And then knowing that I'm not alone it's just like, oh my God, what a release. And even if like no other person has been exactly through the same thing, like just knowing that they're there with unconditional positive regard, right? Carl Rogers, like just love for you, right? In that state
Yeah.
of openness and that state of shame, whatever it may be, anger, fear, frustration, sadness, grief, pain, loss, joy,
Mhm.
ecstasy, right? It's like there's other people that are witnessing that, and there's nothing else like it in a group, right? Like you can do this one on one, you can do it by yourself, but there's something just magic about having a group to hold that space for you.
And I know that groups are, I mean, groups are incredibly uncomfortable for you. Going
Mm-hmm.
back to CCA, Colorado Counseling Association, the reason I went
Mm-hmm.
to that was because I had made this decision. I was like, well, I'm leaving aerospace, I'm going into mental health. And part of this journey is I need to like figure out how to be not so shy, not so depressed, not so fearful or anxious, right? And so part of that inner work was to say yes to things that make me uncomfortable. And so saying yes was going to that community meeting where then a professor of mine was like, you should, oh, we nominated you to be part of the board. Yeah, like you're doing this, like you should do this. And so I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then I was like, oh, wait, you came here to do things that are uncomfortable, because if you don't do things that are uncomfortable, your life is going to stay exactly the same and you're not happy in that life. And so change requires discomfort, you know? And so I said yes to that and many other things that made me to try to speak in front of people, like to stumble through that really, really not greatly, and then find a way to improve and get more comfortable. And then yeah, just those things, right? And being in groups was like it's been a decade long experience of like, how do you one participate in a group without disappearing completely, right?
Yeah.
Or getting defensive or a vulnerability hangover after you share something, feeling so exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you what do I do now, right?
Yeah.
And then still being held and loved, and they're like, hey, we got you, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that's yeah, it feels big, it feels like a lot. And
Well, you feel big. Like I'm just picturing like my idea of who you were during CCA. It was small. And I think in myself, like I kind of maybe took you for granted, right? Like it was felt small.
yeah.
And now I just see you as big. like you've expanded into some amazing space. You're like, you've taken your space. You've stepped into your bigness. And that's pretty remarkable, right? To do that with a sense of like hesitation at the beginning. Like, I'm not sure I want to do this, but you trusted yourself enough to say yes. And I think that's part of what I recognize in you too, is just, I think we both have this sense of curiosity, right? Like, well, maybe, like, let's see, right? Just like maybe tap a little on the door and see what unfolds. And so with that curiosity and with a deep trust in yourself, look how big you've become. Look how big your life has become. Like,
Yeah.
could you have imagined what?
No.
From aerospace to like outer space, outer limits, right? The
From
sense of
aerospace to
wonder.
outer space, I love that.
Yeah, right. It's like you've just shot up there into the atmosphere. It's pretty incredible, right? It's like wondrous. It's a joy. It's like just so much wonder. Like what? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's I found this so interesting that you went from never have really worked with psychedelics to now you're cultivating your own because it's legal in Colorado, and you have your
Mhm.
all your little friends in the tubs growing and and growing different
Yeah.
varieties and venturing
Yeah.
into medicinal mushrooms as well.
Never in my life would I have imagined, 10 years ago. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to grow
Yeah.
mushrooms? Magic mushrooms? Psychedelics? Like, what? What? Said this frequently, but like mushrooms have saved my life. Something that I hold so dear and respect and revere so much, like the mushrooms and how they came to me. And it completely changed my life. It saved my life. I'm tagging onto that more recently is that it's not just the mushrooms, it's the people that I met as a result of the mushrooms, right? It's the community, it's the connections, the groups, the men that I've been so lucky to sit with and be with. Just it is magic, right? Like how it starts to spread and grow and you make these connections that change your life. That's what I've noticed like with the men's groups that I've been a part of is just they change your life in small ways and big ways and meaningful ways, right? It just continues to grow and expand in amazing and wonderful ways.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, the connections that come from the curiosity that led you there, like that openness and curiosity and willing to take a risk opens up an entire new world of not just that one experience, but of the people that you meet as a result of that decision to say,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious about that. We'll see where that goes. And
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about, as we engage in this work, as maybe some of us provide this as a service in regulated spaces or personal use. How have you found who you are in the space? And this part we can keep for ourselves, but that part of like Marc's gonna facilitate ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
like that process of like, okay, I'm at the head of the room, I facilitating an experience, cultivating a container, and you were
Mm-hmm.
working with our good friend during that time as well. But like for you personally, what has been that process of self-discovery of who am I in the space when I'm sitting with somebody? And then in your quiet times of what is my relationship to this medicine and what's my lineage? Yeah, how do you conceptualize that so that you have kind of this anchor into knowing who you are so that you don't get lost along the way?
Well, I feel like I have gotten lost along the way, meaning
Yeah.
Marc isn't Marc, right? Like Marc is just this body, this name, this idea versus who I really am, which is something much bigger, right? Like I feel like through the medicine work, I've died 1,000 deaths. My ego dies so many times over and over again. And then I'm reborn into something else. And you've held me, Papa. Like there have been times where like I feel like I have just absolutely died and then woken up in your arms. Like there you are. And so it's like the sense of losing myself, losing who I think I am, and just being open to something bigger, whatever it is, that universal love, universal heart, universal consciousness. I don't know what to call it, right? It's the great wonder. I feel when I'm at my best, like I lose a sense of Marc and I'm just present to what is. It's in my breath, it's in the space, it's in every moment. It's not in my mind. It's not like me thinking about what's next or what just happened before or what did I do? What am I going to do? Nope. It's just like completely present in that space of breath. So for me, it really has been a deeper awakening into things that I had thought about, things that I had read about, right? Like my PhD is in religious studies. And so, like, I've got this wealth of information around different religions and spiritual beliefs and practices. And it was all heady, right? Like the PhD just was so heady. And I came out of that program completely in my head and wanting to lose it, wanting to lose my mind. And I think that was the part of me that just needed to die in order to in some way be born into the spirit of myself, not the mind of myself. Yeah, I think for me it's just an ongoing lesson of be present in the moment. And I'm not perfect, right? Like I know there are times where I'm not, and that's okay. Nobody is. And I think I used to hold perfection as an ideal. Like it's got to be perfect. I've got to know what to say or what to do. And I think there is this trust of, yeah, you do know what to say, you do know what to do, like even if you make a mistake, it's okay, you'll
Yeah.
figure it out, right? It's like it's all perfect, right? Everything unfolds as it needs to. And I feel like I've become more trusting of the process, trusting as things unfold, still containing a sense of wonder and curiosity. Awe is a big one for me. Like just showing up in awe, like every day, like stepping outside, opening the garage door, stepping into the front yard, and like look at these flowers, look at the grass, look at the leaves, the clouds, the sun. Everything is just a wonder. And then with my clients as well, right? And the people that I just meet wherever. It's like, whoa, this is cool. This is curious. This is interesting. And so at 55 years old, I can still hold a sense of awe and wonder and curiosity and learn new things about life and people and myself. It's pretty amazing. And it's sometimes so uncomfortable, right? Like it's so hard. And you sit in this discomfort, like, oh, I don't want to be in this space. It's hard. I don't want to be here. And then you breathe and you move and things change. It's always constantly changing, right? And so I'm present to that moment, present to that discomfort, and it changes. I don't need it to change. I don't push for it to change. I just know it's going to change. So, yeah, I think for me, it's just like comfort. Like I've become more comfortable and less maybe driven, not driven, but pushing. We forget. We forget the turtle won the race. And so remember that. Like you can go slow. It's okay, even in discomfort.
That pacing, well, that trust that I always think of it of like it's like having faith.
Mhm.
It's like, but it's like trusting in the flow of life. If you stay curious and you stay centered in your integrity and your truthfulness and how you want to live, that you start to like generate this goodness, right? This like if we're living from our heart and we can trust that and we can really like deepen into that way of living, that it is, yeah, like if we just find this awe, right? Because we're always in that moment of like every day, like it's the, thank you for this day, thank you for this life, thank you for the
Mhm.
love, right? It's a little
Mhm.
prayer I say in the morning, and I think it came from those experiences of like, yeah, look around, look at the comforts and the privilege and the community and the friends and the type of work that you
Mhm.
get to do and the love that you have in your life. And what more could you possibly want?
Right?
You
Every
know?
breath is a gift. I say that all the
Yeah.
time too. Every breath is a gift, even in the pain, right? I'm dealing with some foot pain right now. And it's like, oh, I want it to go away. But it's a gift to feel the pain because I'm alive, right? Like I'm alive. And so not every moment is full of joy and wonder, of course. But even in the darkest pain, that means you're still alive, you're still breathing. when there are plenty of people, when you reach 55, you've lost a lot of friends and family members who aren't here. And so it's a deep appreciation, I think, of life and even in the pain of life and knowing you don't have to do it alone, right? Like I reach out to
Mhm.
you, you reach out to me. We've got our groups, we've got people that we connect with, loved ones, family members. It's like, yeah, you don't have to do it alone. There's no
Mhm.
need.
I was thinking about you know, don't have to do it alone. I was thinking back to, and I had asked you about like how do you position yourself, like how do you find yourself in your work on where you stand and who you are. And a lot of I get that question a lot, or that conversation comes up a lot in the consultation groups that I provide, like for folks that are doing psychedelic work and just want a community of support. So we have those groups going on. And a big part of the conversation for a while was, who am I? So we have these clinicians that have been practicing traditional therapies and have completed a training or pursuing their psychedelic facilitator license, or are starting to work with ketamine, which is already, you know, legal in the space. And they start to bump up against this. All my intellectual learning tells me I need to practice this way, but my experiences with these medicines and the way it causes or can facilitate a different type of relationship with my client is pushing against those boundaries, those rules, those
Yeah.
very strict protocols that we follow. And then another layer on top of that is, who am I now? If I
Mm-hmm.
was this very cleanly packaged clinician and now I've done this training, it's disrupted my identity of who I am. So how do I speak about this? What's my voice even, right? I think was the
Mm-hmm.
big one that came up in the group. It's like, what's my voice? And I think that's a big part of it, because I think once you understand who you are, what your voice is, then at
Mm-hmm.
least you have something to anchor into,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have something that we can anchor into. And as we navigate these spaces, we'll have these experiences that we're trying to blend a clinical aspect with the ceremonial, spiritual aspect, or a medicine that has a long spiritual cultural lineage in many cultures across the entire world, right? It's not just that this mushroom comes from this place. There's
Yeah.
mushrooms and cultures all around the world that have their own rituals, their own beliefs. And a lot of these rituals and beliefs have shared aspects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cleansing space and the medicine offering, and what's the prayer look like, and what are the deities, what are the belief systems. And so we have all these areas, and then some of us end up doing this work directly. And I know for me, like I did have my healing process a lot with ayahuasca at a church in Florida, and then discovering psilocybin, and then working with that, and then starting to work with students and clients and other group offerings, you know, in a more ceremonial context. And the further I got along into that work, the more work of my own I had done. But then I also, for a moment, started to question, like, well, now you're mentoring others, but do you know exactly who you are in this space? Have you so much growth and reflection and right challenges and beautiful things have happened in all that time? And it's like, well, have you taken a moment to anchor yourself in who you are, right? And so I could feel that day to day. I know who I am, but had I sat down and said, okay, this is what I'm connecting to, and this is what I want to create. And I think late last year, with some transitions in work and kind of an influx of requests for you know, some clinical consultation and some mentorship for some people, I really felt my age coming on. I really felt like, oh, I think I've maybe done enough of this work to have something that I can offer back, right? And I don't have all the answers. I'm still, right, we're always learning and growing, but I felt like, oh, I feel like I have enough knowledge to not feel like an imposter, right?
Mm-hmm.
To feel like, okay, I can do this. It's not perfect. I know there's a lot to learn, but I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing. That's a good place to be. Like, I know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of know. I accept what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And I'm curious, and I'll remain to explore that. And part of like when I was creating my practice was like I had just done the like a DNA ancestry thing. And so there was like
Mm-hmm.
last winter, there was a moment of like DNA exploration. And it was like, you know, it was like a list of 12 things on my list, and I'm from Puerto Rico, so the top one was Taino, Taino Indian, the Spaniard, West African, and then a bunch of other ones that are, smaller percentages. So I was like, well, what's my anchor? Who I'm working in a ceremonial context, I'm working with groups. How do I want to connect my practice to who I am? And so, and exploring that Taino culture, like I found the concept of a Zemi. Is a Zemi or Cemi. It's spelled in different ways, and I was like, oh, that feels like something like tangible. Like that feels
Yeah.
tangible. I was like, well, what's a Zemi? I was like, oh, a Zemi is like a carved out of stone or wooden object that's like a symbolic physical representation of a deity, of a god, of a belief or ancestral spirit. So it's like a physical representation of something that I can put on my altar to remind me when I'm setting up my altar, when I'm doing prayer, when I'm holding space for somebody. I can have that Zemi, and there's many different zemis of different gods. There's like Yukahu, there's Atabe, which is like Mother God, and there's Dios Luna, so like for the moon goddess, and there's Bohique, which is like the shaman, the healer of the town. And there's many others. Like there's one for Huracan, for the hurricane, and all these other elements. So they have like this polytheistic view that there's all these different gods and they all represent a part of nature and creation. And so they have these zemis or these power objects. So I was like, oh, okay, that feels like home. That feels like something tangible that can give me like more of a concrete understanding of my lineage and how I want to approach my work going forward. And then so that's
Mhm.
where the practice is starting to build around that. And yeah, I'm excited to like have a focus and to
Mhm.
have that feels really connected.
Mhm.
So that's where that came about, and I'm really curious to see, as I like move into offering these online men's groups for clinicians. And so we're offering these groups for facilitators, guides, somatic experiences, any type of male service provider in the kind of the
Mhm.
healing arts. And so to create a community where men can come together, one, to just talk about the work that they're doing if they need some type of consultation, talk about life. Like
Yeah.
everybody's in a relationship, whether they have kids or not, they have parents, and what are they navigating and holding in life? What are the demands that they're holding as a man? Right,
Mhm.
that this provider, protector, how are those roles sitting? Is that
Mhm.
balanced? Right, is the feminine and masculine balanced within our systems, or are we out of balance in an
Mhm.
unhealthy way? And so, yeah, to create a men's group for clinicians where we can talk openly about the differences of being a male in these spaces, to process our own shadow stuff, to have support, to not feel isolated. And then yeah, so like with this vision of someday then being able to bring that group together in person, to have the types of experiences that you and I have had in person, right? And
Yeah.
to bring them in to feel that energetic co-regulation, safety,
Mhm.
the big exhale of like, well, I can just be, like
Mhm.
I don't have to really do anything here other than just be myself. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Which is nice because as men, I think we tend to take it all on ourselves. Like, I've got to do, I've got to provide, I've got to be this, I've got to be that, right? There's a sense of just independence, especially I think in Colorado in the West, it's like that
yeah,
Western spirit of independence. I've got it. I'm going to do it myself, especially with the military, right? Like, there's a sense of me, ownership, versus in a group where you can just like be open, like exhale, release, and know that you're supported in that. You don't have to carry it all on your own. You've got support. You've got men who are willing to support and give you space. You don't have to do it on your own. What an offering.
yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited about it for sure.
I was thinking about when you were talking about the Zemi being carved from wood, and I have this idea of like, yeah, the wood is what it is, right? There's a certain type of wood, whether it's oak or aspen or walnut, whatever the wood is, but then it's carved. And what I picture happening for you is like how your life has created the carvings in the wood, the people that you meet, the experiences that you have, the emotions that you feel, like that's all carving into that. But that never changes, right? There's a core essence of you, whether it's walnut, oak, aspen, whatever, that is being carved by the experience, by life. And so I didn't know that, like, that's how the name came about. But I
Yeah.
love that idea of, like, yeah, the wood is what it is, right? That doesn't change. That's who you are. But then it's formed and shaped in interesting ways by interesting experiences and people.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice way to look at it. Thanks for that. Yeah, the
Yeah.
carvings. Yeah, it's so cool.
And then, like, just thinking too about the trees, how, like, even aspens are connected underground, right? So
hmm
it's not
hmm
just this one thing. It's like, oh, everything that's connected to it that brought that piece of wood. So the lineage, the ancestry, all those connections underground that you don't see that actually made this happen. And then, boom, it gets carved. I love that.
Love that too. Thank you, Mark. Thanks
Yeah.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah. What an image.
Well, I think we'll go ahead and stop. We've been going at it
Hmm.
for a
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
Thank you.